Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make this circle dress with puff sleeves. So make sure to watch until the end. Anyways, let's get right into it. So we're going to be using this basic bodice block, and I've already put out a video that shows you how to draft a basic bodice block. Only difference here is I stopped at the waist and also added my sewing allowances while drafting. 0.5 inches below the waistline and 1 inch along the side seams. So the next thing is we're going to be adjusting the darts to avoid a pointy bust. From that point, we shall be going backwards by 1 inch, and then from that same point, we shall be going downwards by 1 inch. And then from those points, we shall create our new darts, just like you see in the video. We shall do the same for the side dart, just like that. And then that point will be our new dart. There's a video I already posted on my TikTok that goes into this dart adjustment, so you can go check it out. We shall also repeat the same process for the back, where we shall go down by 1 inch. And then we shall draw in our new dart lines, and that will be the new dart for the back as well. So like I told you earlier, this bodice already has its sewing allowances included, so make sure you include yours. We're also going to make some few adjustments on the armhole for the kind of sleeve we want. So we shall go up there by 3 inches, and then from that shoulder point we shall go in by 1 inch. Then we shall just draw a line to connect the 2 points, and then that will be our new armhole. I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for the back piece. We shall go up by 3 inches and mark that point, and then go in by 1 inch, mark that point and join with a line. And then we're just going to fold in those parts. We won't cut them. This is because I'll be using this same bodice for other designs. So yes, that's our new armhole. And so now we're going to move to the sleeve drafting. Because we're going to add gathers to this, we're going to leave about 3 to 4 inches at the top. I'll be leaving 4 inches, so we shall just mark that from the starting line, and then we shall draw a new starting line. So I'm going to start by showing you how to draft a basic sleeve, and then we shall adjust it to make the sleeve that we want. And so for now, we're first going to ignore that upper line, and then we're going to focus on that new starting line. So from that line, we're going to measure half of our armhole depth, which is 4 inches in this case. That's the formula I used to find my armhole depth while drafting my bodice. So yes, that new line will be half of that armhole depth. So for a basic sleeve, this line is normally what determines the curve. But anyways, let's continue to that new line. So from that center, we're going to measure our armhole depth, which is the distance from that shoulder point to that armhole line. I already showed you the formula I used, but yes, we shall mark that, and then we shall add 0.5 inches of ease and then 1 inch of sewing allowance. So I'm just going to use my free hand to draft the curve that would be for the basic sleeve. If we were using a basic sleeve, that would be the curve that we would be cutting through, but we shall be using gathers, so we shall be making use of that upper space. So the curve will be drawn from the upper line. Anyways, we shall get there. So from that line, we shall measure the bicep, which is 7.5, and then we shall just draw a line. I'll just go ahead and name it. So the sleeve length is supposed to end at my elbow, which is 14.25. But because we want to add some puff to the sleeve, we're going to add 1 extra inch at the length. So that will be 15.25. So we shall just go ahead and draw the line there. Then I'll just mark that as the elbow. After that, we're going to be adding our sewing allowance, which in this case will be our elastic band allowance, and that will be 1.5 inches. Then I'll draw a line. So on our biceps line, we're going to measure from the center half of our biceps circumference measurement. Mine is 7.75. Then we shall add 1 inch of sewing allowance. Also from the center of the elbow line, we shall measure half of our elbow measurements, which was 6 plus 1 inch of sewing allowance. So I'll just go ahead and join those points, and this would be our basic sleeve. But of course, we're doing a puff sleeve, so we're going to just widen the lower bit, depending on how puffy you want your bottom of the sleeve to be. So I'm going to add about 3.5 to 4 inches to my bottom sleeve. The wider you make it, the more puffy the sleeve will be. So just do it according to your preference. I'll just go ahead and draw that line there, and then I'll just extend that line to the sewing allowance. If you are using your basic sleeve, you would be carving it out the other way around, just like that, so that when you fold it up, it's matching up with that slant line. But anyways, for now we shall focus on that line. So for the gathers on the upper part, we're going to make use of that upper 4 inches space that we left. I'll leave about 2.5 inches from that point, and then we shall just freehand it just like that and draw a curve to that point at the bottom, just like you see in the video. And so that's going to be the new curve for our sleeve. So this is mostly it. We shall just be cutting it out all the way like that. Like I told you earlier, this upper part is basically for the gathers, which was 4 inches. So one extra detail I'm going to share is when we're going to sew, the first thing we're going to do is mark 1/2 inch at that point, and then go down by 3 inches, and then we're going to just draw a line there, just like you see in the video. And then we shall just join those 2 points like that with a line, and so we shall be stitching from that point to that point for both the sleeves, and not forgetting that this part is on fold. Anyways, you will see how I do it on the actual fabric. So we shall just cut that out, and so we're done with the sleeve. We're going to move on to cutting on fabric. So this is going to be our back. We shall cut on 2 separate pieces, and then this will be our front, which we shall cut on fold. And then for the sleeve, we shall be cutting 2 pieces on fold. So like you can see, I've already done doing that. I've cut 2 pieces on fold for the sleeve. I'm just going to go ahead and mark that point on both parts of the sleeve. And as you can see, they're each on fold. And then we shall move on to the front side. I cut both a facing and the main piece on fold, just like you see. I also went ahead to mark the dots on the wrong side of the fabric. Then for the facing, it was a similar piece on fold, but just stopping at that point, just like you can see. Then moving to the back, I did the same thing. I cut 2 pieces, this time not on fold, they were separate pieces. And I cut the facing and the main piece and transferred the zip allowances. Make sure to mark the actual zip allowance slanting outwards like that, because we are taking out 0.5 inches while drafting. So from that point, we shall come and actually mark 1.5 zip allowance all the way up to the bottom. We shall also go ahead and transfer the dots to the fabric. And then for the facing, it's the same explanation as I did for the front, just doing that. So we're going to start the sewing process. For the front piece, we're going to just place it like that, and we're going to sew in our dots. And after we are done sewing in our dots from the wrong side, we shall just place the facing, right sides facing each other, and then sew in the neckline by about 1/2 inch. And then for the back, we shall just go ahead and sew in our dots on both the pieces, just like you've seen. And then we shall place the facing, right sides facing each other on the main piece. And then we shall sew in the neckline by 1/2 inch. So this is the back, and I'm already done with sewing in our dots, just like you've seen in the video. And then I've also gone ahead to sew in our facing on the right side of the fabric by about 1/2 inch, just like you can see. I've gone ahead to do it on both the pieces, right sides facing each other. We shall then go ahead and notch the neckline around the curve, just like you see in the video, so that when we turn it to the other way around, it's going to be able to relax easily. Make sure not to cut the thread when you're notching. So we shall just do that on both sides. Moving on to the front, I sewed in our bust dots, just like you see in the video. Then I also went ahead to sew in the waist dots. You can notice that there is some space there at the center to prevent the pointy dart. That was the purpose of the adjustments we made on the dots earlier. On the right side, you can see that the bust is already taking shape. So yes, moving on to the facing, we also did the sewing of the neckline, right sides facing each other, and we did that by 1/2 inch. So we shall also go ahead and do the notching, which I already did. And so we shall just turn it over to the wrong side, and that's what it's going to look like. So in order to make the facing stay on the other side, we're going to just hold the facing and the sewing allowance to one side, just like you see in the video. We shall pull the sewing allowance to the other side of the facing, and then we shall just top stitch along that part. We shall also repeat that same process for the back piece as well. We shall just hold the sewing allowance to the facing side, and then we shall just top stitch along the facing. So at this point, I've already finished doing that. This is what it's going to look like. As you can see, this is how the top stitch is going to look like. This is it on the wrong side, and then this is it on the right side of the facing, as you can see. And so it just folds back in on the other side very neatly, and then we shall just go ahead and press it down. Also, we shall just go ahead and fold in our zip allowance and press it down just like you see in the video. Moving on to the front, we also finished doing the top stitch just like you can see. That's what it looks like on both the right and the wrong side. Remember that the top stitch always happens on the facing, not the main piece. You're not supposed to see it on the right side. So I also went ahead and pressed everything, the darts and the facing. We shall then move on to overlocking. At the back, I started by overlocking the bottom of the facing, and then together I overlocked the facing and the main piece from that point all the way to the bottom of the armhole. We won't be overlocking the armhole at this point. We shall do this for both the pieces. And then moving to the front, we shall overlock from the bottom of the armhole all the way to the bottom. We shall also overlock the bottom of the facing, but we won't overlock the armhole parts for now. So moving on, we are going to place the back piece on top of the front piece, right sides facing each other, just like you see in the video. So we're going to match the two main pieces of the back and the front together, just like you can see in the video. And then we shall also match the facing of the back and the front together, just like you see in the video. So it's main piece to main piece and then facing to facing. And we shall make sure that the seam line of the back and the front align exactly at the same point, just like you see in the video. Then we shall just sew them together by 1/2 inch. Then we shall repeat the same process on the other side, where we shall do main piece to main piece and then facing to facing and make sure that the seam lines align. So at this point, I'm done with the sewing. This is what it looks like. Like I told you earlier, the facing is sewed to the facing and then the main piece is sewed to the main piece. So when you fold it in, you can also see that the seam lines of the back and the front are aligning, just like you see in the video. So yes, that's what it's going to look like when we're done. As you can see, both sides look neat. And also when you turn it to the wrong side, it looks neat as well. So you're not seeing any raw edges. The purpose of this method is to make sure that the right side and the wrong side both look neat. So moving on, we're now going to finally overlock the armhole. We shall be overlocking both the facing and the main pieces together, just like you see in the video. We're also going to go ahead and overlock the sleeves all around, just like you can see in the video. We shall only leave the bottom. So at this point, I've already finished overlocking the armhole, as you can see. I've also done the same for the sleeve. We're finished overlocking all the way around, just like you can see. But we left the bottom like I told you. So for the bottom, I'm going to fold in the allowance that we left, which was 1.5 inches. And then I'll just fold in by about 0.5 inches. And then I'll just stitch it down. And that part is going to be the casing for this elastic band, just like you see in the video. And also on the wrong side of the sleeve, we're going to first fold it in 2/2, just like you see in the video. And then we're going to stitch in the other part that I showed you way earlier, where it's 0.5 at the top and then going down by 3 inches and then drawing a line. So from that point, we're going to just stitch it down like that on both the sleeves. So this is what it looks like. It just creates some form of curve, just like you can see in the video. You'll see the full effect after the sleeve is done. So I also went ahead to sew down that bottom casing, as you can see in the video. And so we're just going to push in our elastic band. So you will just attach your safety pins and then we shall just push in the elastic band till it's out from the other side. So when we're done, we shall then just stitch down the ends to make sure that the elastic band stays in place. As you can see, the design is already coming together. So anyways, I'm going to just go ahead and stitch down those edges of the elastic band. After we're done, we're going to move to the main piece, and then we shall hold those 2 points together and find the midpoint of the armhole. And after we found the midpoint, we shall just go ahead and mark it. You can also go ahead and notch it. So after getting the midpoint, we shall measure 1.5 inches on both sides of that midpoint, just like you see in the video. Then we shall get the sleeve and place the corner of the sleeve on one side. Make sure that it's right side to right side. And then we shall place it one side like that, pin it down, and then we shall stitch it up to that point where you've seen the first mark. Just follow what I'm doing in the video. So we shall stitch it to that exact point by 0.5 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin it down there. And then on the other side, we shall then do the same thing, join those points there, and then stitch it down all the way to meet the other second mark that we put there at that 1.5 mark. So I'm just going to go and pin it down. So yes, that's what is going to remain in the center. But we're first going to go and just stitch it down on both sides, then we shall be back. So at this point, I'm already done stitching those points, just like you can see in the video. I stitched it down by 0.5 inches on both sides. So now that we're left with the center, remember the midpoint that we first marked at the beginning for the main armhole. We're going to match it up with the seam line on the sleeve. Just like you can see in the video, we shall just go ahead and pin it down. And after you're done with pinning it down, we're going to be left with 2 equal sides, just like you see in the video. So we're going to be creating 3 equal pleats on both sides. So on this side, we shall create pleats facing that side, and then on this other side, we shall create pleats facing the other side. As you can see in the video, I'm creating the 3 equal pleats. That's the first pleat, and then the second pleat, and then the third pleat. Just try to equalize them. When you're done equalizing them, you'll then pin them down into place, just like you're going to see me do. So we shall just pin each of the pleats, the first one, the second one, and then the third one. So the 3 pleats on this side are done. So moving on to the other side, we shall form pleats, 3 of them facing the opposite direction, just like you see in the video. And so after equalizing all the 3 pleats, you'll then go ahead and pin them down just like you see in the video. So this is what they both look like. On the other side, make sure it's not wrinkled, make sure you straighten it up. And then now we're going to go ahead and stitch them down by 0.5 inches. As you can see, I've done the same process on the other side. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch them down. Make sure that while you're stitching them, the pleats are at the top side, and then you keep on removing the pins slowly by slowly as you're stitching. After you're done, this is what it's going to look like. On the other side, that's what it looks like. And then at the right side, as you can see, the puff has already been formed. This is just another angle to show you the puff. This is what it looks like. As you can see, the pleats are very neat. The next thing is we're going to cut out the skirt part, so we shall first open up the pieces like this, and then we're going to first measure the waistline for both the back and the front pieces. Make sure to include all the sewing and zip allowances while measuring. We're going to be cutting out a circle skirt with side seams, and so we need the full waist circumference plus the zip and sewing allowance. So since we're including the side seams for the circle skirt, I'll be separating my circle skirt into 3 pieces. 1 piece to match the front and then 2 pieces to match the back. I'll also be sharing another method where you don't have to have a side seam. It's the easier method. So we're going to start off by putting the fabric on fold, just like that. And then we shall fold it to the other side at a right angle. So we're going to get the waist circumference that we measured and divide it by 3.14. And then whatever we get, we shall just be measuring it downwards. Also, the full length of this whole piece should be the figure you got after dividing the full waist circumference by 3.14 plus the full skirt length, which we shall measure from that curve downwards. Also, in case your skirt length is longer than the fabric that's available, which is the case for me, I'll show you how we go about adding an extra piece at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 12.9 inches all around like that. And then I'll just draw in the curve. So to confirm that this cut waist is going to be enough for our top, we shall measure that waist curve and multiply it by 4 and make sure it's equal to the waist circumference. If it's smaller, then lower the curve, and if it's bigger, then raise the curve till it's either equal to or more than your waist circumference. So from that part, we are going to measure our skirt length, which is 38 for me. As you can see, it's exceeding the fabric. So before I show you how to go about that, if you have a shorter skirt length, you can just go ahead and draw it in like this, whatever skirt length it is. If you're in this bracket, that will be it. That will be your skirt width, and then the other part will be your skirt length, and that will be done. But since mine is longer, we shall go ahead and place pattern paper below it just like that. And then we shall pin it down and then go ahead and measure our skirt length, which in my case is 38 inches. So I'm going to just measure 38 inches all around. Also, this skirt length includes the hem allowance. And after I'm done measuring it all around, I'll just draw in the curve just like you see. After we're done, we shall just cut out that part just like you see in the video. So after we're done with that, we're then going to cut out that part of the fabric that we don't need, the one with the selvage, because we don't want that to appear on our outfit. I'll just go ahead and cut it out on all the sides, just like that. And then I'll cut out my waist. I'll also go ahead and trim off that other part of the pattern paper, because it's not needed. So now on this pattern paper, we are first going to draw in that line where the fabric is stopping, just like you see in the video. After we are done with that, we can then separate the pieces. That's what it's going to look like. I'm just going to draw in with a marker so that it's clearer to you. So because we shall be joining that piece to the other piece, we're going to add the sewing allowance that we need. In this case, we shall be adding all the sewing allowance to the pattern paper. We shall be using 0.5 inches of sewing allowance on both pieces, so we shall be adding 1 inch of sewing allowance to the pattern paper. So we shall just go ahead and mark it out. So we shall be using that pattern paper to cut out the necessary pieces. One of them will be on fold, and then the other will be just 2 separate pieces. So here I'm just folding in 0.5 inches to show you how it's going to look when you finally attach the 2 pieces. Here I already marked 0.5 inches, so yes, when you place it like that on that 0.5 inch mark, it will just match perfectly. You'll just have to trim off that extra balance there. So as you can see on that main skirt, we have 2 pieces that are separate and then 1 piece on fold. So when we are cutting out the pieces for the pattern, we shall put 1 on fold, which would be matching the first one there that's on fold, as you can see in the video. And then for the second piece, we shall be cutting separate pieces of that pattern, just like you see in the video. So we're going to just go ahead and join the pieces right sides facing each other to the main skirt. By the end of this, your skirt waist circumference should be matching the waist circumference of your top. So as you can see, I've already joined one of the pieces to the skirt, as you can see. So after you're done with that, you'll just go ahead and chop off that extra part. So after we're done with chopping off that, we shall then go and overlock the raw edges, and then we shall just go ahead and join the rest of the pieces to the skirt. So at this point, I've already finished overlocking it and even pressing it down. And so as you see, when you match your fabric patterns properly, it's hard to even realize that some piece has been added there. Also on this other side, I've already finished attaching the pieces just like you see in the video. So I'm going to separate my skirt pattern in order to create the front and the back pieces, but if you don't need side seams on your skirt, then don't separate it. Just do this instead. Get your top piece and then you're going to just turn it inside out. And then you'll be joining the side seams of the sleeve all the way down to the waist. My sewing allowance was 1 inch, so that's what I'll use. And so after you're done joining the side seams, I just pinned mine, but after you're done sewing them in, you'll just open it up like that, and then you'll be joining your skirt starting from that point all the way to the other side. In this case, I had already cut mine, but yours should be continuing up to the other side. and this is in case you don't need side seams on the skirt. But in my case, I'm going to be joining one piece to the front and then other two pieces to the back. Let me take out the pins so you can understand what I'm saying. So yes, one piece will be joined to the front like that, and then the other two pieces will be joined to the back separately. So I'm just going to get the rest of the skirt piece that I had cut off, and then I'm going to divide it by 2 to get the other back pieces. So this is the piece that we're going to be using for the back. We're going to be separating it into 2. So we shall just fold it just like you see in the video. I'll then go ahead and mark out my zip allowance on both sides just like you see in the video. Then I'll just go ahead and cut out that part. I'm then going to go ahead and fold in my zip allowance just like you see, and then I'll be pressing it with a flat iron, just the way we folded the zip allowance on the bodice as well. Make sure you're folding it towards the wrong side. So we shall just open up the bodice just like you see in the video, and then we shall turn it to the right side. After we are done with that, we shall be placing the skirt pieces on the back side and the front side. So we shall start with this part. Right sides facing each other, we shall place the waist of the skirt on the waist of the back bodice just like that, and we shall pin it down. We shall be sewing it in by 0.5 inches of sewing allowance. And that's what it should look like when you're done. And then we shall also repeat the same thing for the other side and also for the front. So for this next part, I'm just going to be attaching right sides facing each other, the second back piece, and then I'll also move forward to the front piece as well. So my front piece is a bit bigger than the front waist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the midpoint of the skirt piece and also the midpoint of the bodice waist, and then we shall be joining both the midpoints together, and then we shall be attaching them like that. At this point, I've finished sewing in the pieces. As you can see, there's an extra at the sides. I've also finished attaching the back pieces just like you see in the video. So the next thing is we're going to be trimming off that extra fabric on the sides, and we shall be doing it just by folding the cloth like this, just like you see in the video. Make sure to align the pieces, and then we shall be trimming off all the way up to the bottom, just like you see me doing in the video. So at this point we are done with that part. So we're going to make sure to go back and back tack at the seams at the bottom, just to make sure that they don't open up. So after we are done with all that, we shall place the pieces just like that, right sides facing each other. And after aligning the pieces, we shall then stitch from that point of the sleeve all the way down the side seam up to the bottom of the hem. The sewing allowance I used was 1 inch. We shall repeat that on the other side as well. At this point, I've already finished sewing the side seams like you can see in the video, and I've done that on both sides. The next thing is we shall be joining the center of the back, but first we shall use the blind zip to determine where we're going to start sewing. So we shall just place it like that. Then we shall mark about 2 inches above the bottom of the zipper. And so from that point, we are going to start stitching all the way downwards to the hem. As you can see, I've already finished doing that. And now we're going to find the position for the zipper. So I've just turned it to the right side, just like you can see in the video. The zip allowance is already pressed in like we did earlier. So just follow me in the video and see how I position the zipper. We shall just place it below that opening, and then you'll just follow what I'm doing. That side will be attached to the other zip allowance part, and then this other side will be attached to the other zip allowance part. So I'll just go ahead and open it, and then that part I'll be attaching to that side of the zipper allowance, and then we shall be stitching it in that position. And then this other side will be attached to the zipper allowance that side, and then we shall be stitching it in that position. I hope that makes sense. So at this point, I've already finished attaching the blind zip. I have a video that shows how to attach a blind zip. so make sure to check it out. The last thing here is I just hemmed all around the bottom. Then I went on to iron out all the seams, and as you can see, it's looking very neat. The blind zip is done and it's looking very neat, as you can see in the video. And yeah, the outfit is now done. If the video was helpful, make sure to leave a like and a comment, and if you have any questions, make sure to leave that in the comment section. Alright guys, thank you for watching and see you in the next video.